What's up, guys? This is Jordan Dominique here with a quick video that I wanted to do about a topic that I've been discussing on my social media platforms over the course of the past week. And, I just been gathering a few different viewpoints and everything and wanted to kind of see everybody's thoughts and feelings on it before I spoke my piece on here and made a video on the subject. So here I am today. And the topic of today's subject is the intentionality of having children. Now, I am a firm believer that having a child is a 100% intentional act. And that's the status that that's the statement that I've made this week, and I've carried that sentiment. A lot of people on both sides, men and women, disagree with that to certain degrees. And I'm here to tell everybody why this is an objective truth 99% of the time. Nothing is 100% because there are always going to be strange situations that are happening in the world where people are being forced to do something out of their own will, that's not in their own will. So that's obviously not what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about anybody who was trapped in a dungeon and forced, because you're always going to be able to find that story about somebody who had some terrible thing that happened to them. And that's just not what we're talking about here today. We're talking about normal sexual intercourse leading to pregnancy. And that is 100% intentional. I'm going to break it down as to where I'm going to knock down everything that the men say first, and then I'll go to the women, just because, just to handle both sides of it individually, because there are fundamentally different arguments on both sides as to why a person would argue that it's not intentional to have a child. Let's go ahead and start with the men, because the men scream this sentiment louder than the women do. And that kind of upsets me as a man, that men are shirking the responsibility that it carries with their sexual activity. That is something that is personally affecting the world negatively, I believe. And a lot of the men want to shift the blame onto the fact that a woman is the person who carries the child. But that's not where pregnancy happens. Pregnancy happens at the conception. Inception, I'm pretty sure is the right word. What I mean is that if you have sex, you are running the risk of getting a woman pregnant. No. She was on birth control. Okay, but we know that that's not 100% accurate. So it's not a good argument. Oh, no, but I wore a condom. Okay, but we know that's not 100% effective. And I'm a firm believer in going with the laws of statistics. So I would tell you that if you were having sex with the proper contraceptives, then you are making responsible decisions in your sexual activity. But in that very same breath, I will also say that by being sexually active, you are running the risk of impregnating a woman, regardless of that, because like I just said, we all know that there are these one-off situations where it can happen. If you're uncomfortable with that possibility, then abstinence is the only way for you to achieve your desired result. If you're willing to take that risk, just know that you're taking that risk with or without a condom, with or without birth control methods. Now, getting to men who have verbally had some type of an agreement with women that they're going to have intercourse and that will just be it. If anything happens after that, then we're not going to be raising any children together. And then the woman goes, and then you guys, do it. Something happens. She ends up getting pregnant. And then she changes her mind and she decides that she wants to keep the child. Once again, this is your fault. And I'm not going to sit here and blame her. Now, I definitely don't like the thought of people being dishonest in this way. but it's a possibility. So I'm gonna run that back to the statistic of if you have sex, you're running a risk of pregnancy. Now, men will sit here and say, okay, but what happened? Like, what happened to trust? What happened to, trusting people? I agree. What happened to trusting people? Do we live in a very trustworthy society? No. Should you walk around every single day of your life paranoid about the fact that we don't live in that trustworthy of a society? To a certain degree, I wouldn't let yourself lose sleep over it or anything, because I believe that the life force, whatever you believe in, I call it God, whatever you call it in, is going to put you down the life path that you're supposed to go to. That you're supposed to go down, should I say. And with that comes trials and tribulations to grow you and develop you and make you a smarter person. If everything was just like a nice downhill slide, we just, what I'm saying, like if life was just you're at the top and then you just get on and we just ride our way to the bottom, I mean, that would be cool, that would be easy, but the ride would be quick, it wouldn't be that memorable, and once you got to the bottom, that's it. There's nothing. I can't sit here, I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, that you should like struggle is something that we should enjoy or learn to enjoy or anything like that. But my point is, the trials and tribulations that we go through are what develop us into the characters that we are. And we don't live in a utopian society where everything is nice and easy and everybody's telling the truth. So in order for us to become the best humans that we are, we have to develop sensibilities about us that are heightened against people trying to fool us. That's humankind's number one weapon. The ability to trick other humans or just other creatures, trapping. Because you got to think about hunting. It's just a lot of trickery. Like, besides the actual shooting of it, like, the trapping and setting up all those things and stuff like that. Well, we set traps for men. And when I say men, I'm talking about humankind. Men and women, they set traps for one another. And a lot of times we fall into those snares. Whose fault is that but our own? Because everybody else is going to tell you to, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. But my whole point in that is, do we even have the luxury to say fool me once and then we're shamed on? Bringing it back to subject, talking about pregnancy. Do you have the ability to say fool me once, shame on you, and now I have to deal with this child for 18 years? If you don't have that, which Lord knows I do not have that luxury. So if you don't have that luxury to, make that move and everything in your life still be financially stable, not breaking your stride on anything, and that is what you plan on happening, then by all means move forward with it. But I don't want you to complain about any agreement that you've made with somebody if they fall through on their end of the bargain, because that is the nature of the beast. So we got through condom broken. We got through a woman lies to you and tells you that she's not going to keep a child and then decides that she doesn't want to have an abortion. The fact that they're the ones who carries the child means that they have the most say in what happens once the child has been created. So while we all try and make these laws and stuff like that to police women's body and things, I don't agree with that end of it. I think that men have to be more sexually responsible and take what comes with it. And if we can get it to a place where the responsibility is shared a little bit better, then maybe we can discuss maybe then we can discuss legislation on people who have misled you. Once we've fulfilled our obligations and once we've removed trickery and treachery on the general front of sexuality, meaning that more times than not, men and women are going to have certain notions of dishonesty with the game. That's why we call it game in the first place, with the game that we run on each other to get inside of each other's pants. And then once the once we have to deal with the consequences of whatever may come with that, if it's less than favorable, then it's all of the sudden things that we weren't prepared for. So we have to be a little bit more responsible on the front end in order to expect other people to be responsible when it comes to their dealings with us as well. I'm willing to start with myself. I'm not an abstinent person. I'm not celibate. I'm not saving myself for marriage, but I am responsible with the people that I choose to have those relations with. There's not a woman who I have had sexual relations with since I've been an adult that I haven't been prepared to have a child with if the need be. But also, there are also many women who, if I did have sex with them and we got pregnant, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm planning on wanting to have a child with them. So abortion is definitely still on the table. I don't like the thought of abortion, and I would not wish that process on anybody because I'm sure that it's not fun. But it's something that we have to be a little bit more adult about and understand that rather than ruining potential life, you have to deal with the responsibility of something that you created that you weren't necessarily ready for. I don't know if you've ever had a friend who adopted a dog from the shelter and then realized that they did not have the responsibility to take care of that dog. I have. And one thing I will tell you is that to me, that's disgusting. To me, I would never do that. But circumstances are always different, and unforeseen circumstances can always come to fruition. So if in that situation, if somebody does that, it would be a better idea for you to get rid of the dog and rehome it to a place that can actually responsibly take care of the animal rather than to keep the animal malnourished or under cared for, not nurtured appropriately, and the subsequent quality of life for that animal dissipate. It's nothing. It's not good. That's not fair to the animal. And it's not fair to a child to be born into a world to an unprepared family. And that's not what, I don't think that that's necessarily what God wants. And I will take this the further step to say, and this is without insulting anybody's religion, that if you're so adamant about the fact that God doesn't want abortion, then you should also be so adamant about the fact that God would probably want you to be responsible in your decisions up to the point of pregnancy. And that is what no sex before marriage was in biblical times, and really up until the last 100 years are we seeing some breakaway, some deviation from something that's been working since the inception of civilization, pretty much. That's what I have to say for the men. Be more responsible, be more intentional with your actions. So that way, there's never going to be a time where you can sit here and say that a woman tricked you into having a child. Because I have no respect for men who say something like that. I'm sorry, but if a woman tricked you out of your dick, then what can I say? That's what happened to you. I don't respect that. But I can go on that all day. And I might have another extra video about that, speaking to men directly. But here we go. The big elephant in the room. Pregnant women, single mothers. Having a child is intentional. The reason that I even have this video at this level is specifically because of the women that I've had conversations with on this topic. A lot of them will sit there and tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. To me specifically, I don't have any children. And I've had multiple women tell me that I can't speak on this subject of intentionally having children because I don't have any children. And I just, at that point in time, always rebuttal with, I don't have children because I have intentionally planned not to. There have been scares, there have been situations, there have been things that have arisen that I won't fully go into detail about because it's inappropriate. But my point is that I have made decisions at times and moved in a manner to make sure that me as a 27-year-old adult has not had one single child out of wedlock or even gotten to the level of a full-term pregnancy where I had to make any kind of decision like that. It is because I intentionally chose not to, all the while being promiscuous to certain degrees. So, with that being said, that's a terrible argument to sit here and say that somebody can't speak on the intentionality of pregnancy because they don't have a child. And then they go into, well, you don't understand the things that were told to me. Basically, a lot of the things that I was saying on the men's side about how a man will say one thing, but when it actually comes to fruition, their actions are different. Trust me when I say that I feel for every human who has ever been tricked into a bad situation. But at the same time, I am talking for everybody who it's happened to, I'm sorry, and we can deal with that the best way moving forward. This is for everybody who has not found themselves in that situation yet and needs to know the identifying factors so that they can make the appropriate decisions moving forward. Meaning that if you are a human in general, go into any type of new sexual, if you're just meeting this person, if you only known them for so long, if you're just now getting into sexual intercourse with them, just know that trust is extremely important on the front end before you ever engage in that. And even if you have trust, there's always still the percent chance that they could be tricking you and just be really good liars or something like that. We all run that risk. You know how you don't end up falling victim to that? You put a ring on it. That's literally no sex before marriage. And I had that conversation with a woman, and she was like, "Oh, that's real easy for you to tell. Are you having sex before marriage?" No, I mean, I am having sex before marriage, but I'm also not having children, and there's a reason for that. And I know that every time that I do it, I have the potential to create life, and I accept that responsibility. Well, I say that there has been times when I've had sex with a woman who wouldn't have had an abortion, who if I would have had a child with, like, I could have had a child with them. If you could say that I got lucky that I didn't, I guess you could say that if that's your opinion. But at the same time, one, I want to have children. I'm definitely financially, I'm in a place where I'm starting to think more and more about the actual age that I want to. But that being said, right now I could do that, and I would be able to make the necessary changes within a 9-month period to get myself fully ready for fatherhood. And that's where I've been for years now, is my point. People should have that mentality when they're talking about this. Because, yeah, you can all have fun, but when the fun stops and then reality sets in, if you didn't have a plan, then you're not the same as me. Like, you're not, we're not, and her excuse was, oh yeah, we could teach celibacy in the school. It's like, but nobody's following that. Okay, nobody's following that rule, but the truth of the matter is that certain people are following certain things to certain degrees of responsibility that's higher than you, and that's why you ended up in the situation that you're in. Now, the specific person who had that conversation with, she did not want to hear that stuff. But guess what? There were other people in the room, because it was on Clubhouse. There were other people who were in the room with us, and sure enough, they agreed. A lot of the men agreed outspokenly. A lot of women didn't agree outspokenly. But one thing that is funny and ironic about that is another woman who's in the room, we've been having conversations all week with her about not only is she not having a child before marriage, but she would be upset if the man who she married got a DNA test, because she's saying that's how intentional it would be for her to have a child with this man, that you shouldn't even be able to fathom that this could possibly be somebody else's child. And I was kind of disappointed that she didn't speak up when I was having the conversation with another woman about the intentionality of having a child, because you're the perfect example of that. You don't have any children. You are in college. You're getting everything that you need to get taken care of. She's not as sexually promiscuous as a lot of the other people that we deal with. And this is all amalgamating to her mentality of knowing that she has to have a family unit set in place before she ever puts a child at risk by bringing him into the world. Like I said, I didn't even go into that because the girl who I was having the conversation with, she wouldn't have acknowledged it. And then the girl who I would have been talking about, she probably wouldn't have, she would ignore. She ran out of the room whenever we started having that conversation because she knew it was going to get like that. You know, they don't like those kind of conversations. But my point is, that woman is a perfect example because of all of the stuff that we said. She said, oh, no, she's not getting tricked out of her COO. You know the rest. That's my point. So that's the number one thing, is that these lying men are tricking you out of that thing, and then they're just irresponsibly getting you pregnant. Like, dude, I don't want to hear that anymore. You have the power. It's yours. If you want to have fun, sexual activity is fun, but you have to practice it responsibly in order to qualify yourself as an adult who should be allowed to engage in these kind of things. Engaging in something and then complaining about your lack of knowledge or responsibility in that situation says, hey, he can't play with those toys anymore. Maybe we should take those toys away from them. Like, that's all that it that's you don't get the keys to the car if every time that we give you the car, it comes back with some type of scratch on it, or you get a ticket every single time. That's just how it is. Abortion is something that is not a fun topic to have. It's very taboo, especially as a man talking about it. I'm not going to tell you, once again, I don't police women's bodies. I don't tell them what they should do with themselves, but I'm going to give an hot take on my opinion. A lot more women need to stop worrying about the stigma of abortion and start worrying about the stigma of a life of poverty, first off. And second off, you have to have a higher capacity to deal with the guilt of the irresponsibility of actions that you take. And that's for man and woman when we're talking about abortion. And what I mean by that is, if we're out here saying that we're living this promiscuous life and we don't want to have children and stuff like that, or you're saying that you're running this life and when it comes you're going to have children, but we know we're not in a good financial situation. Listen, I believe that as young adults, we need to be biting the bullet more often, taking that guilt to the heart and saying, nope, I was not ready to have a child, and do exactly what you need to do. I'm not going to say it. Do what you need to do to make sure that you're in a financially secure and even romantically secure, like a family is what we need. And that is what I mean when I say that having a child is intentional. So maybe people are right when they come to me and say, it's not always so black and white. You're right. In today's society, a lot of people aren't intentionally having children. And that's my point, is that having a child should be an intentional act, because intercourse is an intentional act. And we know the potential outcome of that. So for everybody who argued against it and said, oh, it's not that black and white, it wasn't intentional in my case, you're right. And that's a problem. That's a problem. So be more responsible moving forward, because it should be an intentional act. Anybody who argues with that, anybody who says, well, it wasn't for me, or disagrees, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's not okay. We're in a very bad place in society because of the lack of responsibility that people have, the lack of ownership that people have of their own messes that they don't want to clean up. We can't make another human being, another life, be that mess, because that will continue the cycle. I don't have much more to say on the topic, but I hope that everybody who watched this video got something out of it. If you have any other opinion or viewpoint on the subject, please, by all means, go ahead and comment on the video. If you enjoy these kind of conversations, then by all means, like and subscribe to the video because it helps. And I will be putting forth more content like this. I'm trying to make sure that I have the right quality that I want and the right passion that I want behind each video. So I can't promise a frequency just yet, but I'm working on getting a good format out so that I can release these videos weekly. I appreciate anybody who's hanging with me through the process. And once again, let's make sure that we're moving with intention out here, because that's what's going to create a better world. We plan for the life that we want. All right, you guys, have a great rest of your day, and thank you for checking out my video.